Raising of the Stars and Stripes by James Brown, John Concannon, Margaret Rust, and Lieutenant Colonel Henry Willis, the Pledge of Allegiance led by Nicholas Murphy, and the playing of the national anthem by the 19th Army Band.
Good afternoon, everyone. Fellow Americans, our eternal Father, long since united, as well as free and sovereign, because Ireland's sons did not hesitate to give the last full measure of devotion, still remains aloof from the like tribulation of their country, its oneness sundered, its freedom and sovereignty denied. How much longer, Heavenly Father, will your patience abide, waiting for the children of America to reciprocate the kind of concern for Ireland that Ireland in its sons showed with magnanimous sacrifice
Ladies and gentlemen, please turn around for the raising of the national anthem, of the flag and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tis a great day for the Irish. And I would like to extend our sincere gratitude on behalf of all of Freedom's Foundation to the Ancient Order of Hibernians for making this possible. A group of dedicated men and women have been at work on this project for nearly 10 years now, and today sees the fruition of that hard work and fundraising and dedication and commitment. And for that, I extend to each of you that were involved in this a very hearty thank you for a job well done. We have with us 3 living Medal of Honor recipients, which I would like to introduce and ask if they would please stand in the front row so that you might see them. Sergeant Charles A. McGillivray, United States Army World War II, representing the Medal of Honor Society from Massachusetts. Please. Captain James M. Burt, United States Army, also World War II. Jim, stay standing, please. And Rear Admiral Eugene B. Fluckey, United States Navy, World War II. Gentlemen, we're very pleased to have you with us. Also with us today from Ireland, Deputy Paddy Hark, who is a member of the Irish Parliament. Freedom's Foundation is now 36 years old. Our mission in life is to educate Americans, particularly young Americans, about the heritage of this country, about how this nation was built and the opportunities that God has given to all of us, and about their responsibilities within this nation. To carry out that mission, we have a plethora of educational programs for young people and for high school teachers and college and elementary school teachers. We have 43 chapters in 21 states and a multitude of programs at the national level designed to reach Americans with that message. None of those programs is more important than that in which we are a part of today, and that's the Medal of Honor Grove. You are seated in a part of a 52-acre grove set aside to honor those men who have given so much, yes, most of them their lives, so that we would have the privilege of sitting here today as free people in a free society. Today is the 52nd area to be dedicated. When we are completed, there will be 53, the 50 states, the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico, the District of Columbia, and the one that we dedicate today, honoring those who have not been accredited to any of the individual states or commonwealths. Certainly, there is no place in this country more fitting than Valley Forge to enshrine forever the memories of those brave people. That winter of 77 and 78, another group, who we now call patriots, but they were traitors, were camped on this site. Traitors to the crown. And if they were caught, of course, they would have been hung. President of the Ladies of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, who will share with us a poem very appropriate for the occasion, The Freedom Tree. Ms. Murphy.
The Freedom Tree by Bobby Russell Brownlee. The freedom tree stands blooming there, rooted in the blood of man. Her branches lift in gratitude for this, our native land. Whisper through her lofty leaves, voices as of yore. Gather once beneath my limbs and open freedom's door. Look behind to yesterday, to lives that bloomed and fell. Think once more of Valley Forge and a winter spent in hell. Contemplate the lives of those who died that we might live without the yoke of tyranny, and ask what you can give. Think of blood that's spilled again, each time that freedom asked the sacrifice of young men's lives, and fit them for this task. Don't forget, with grateful hearts, the suffering of those who lived behind the prison walls, because for you, they chose to give themselves unselfishly, that freedom might endure. And with their blood and tears and toil, our heritage ensure. As long as there are men as these who care enough to give their blood to nourish liberty, our freedom tree will live. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now comes the part of the program where we unveil the marker, the monument, the central part of the area that we are about to make a permanent part of the Medal of Honor Grove. To unveil the monument, I would ask to come forward Colonel Paul A. Jeffrey, United States Army retired, Barbara O'Neill, representing the person that made it all possible, the monument, Charles Haughey, and Mr. Joseph Sullivan, Chairman of the Ancient Order of Hibernian Medal of Honor Committee. I'm sorry, I missed one, excuse me. John P. Connolly, past national president of the Ancient Order of Hibernians. That contributed to this project and made it all possible. A magnificent addition to the Medal of Honor Grove, and we're very grateful to those of you that made this possible. And to make it all official, to present it to us, it's not ours yet. Joseph Sullivan, Chairman of the AOH Medal of Honor Committee.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. Reverend clergy, my beloved Sister Maria Veronica, Consul General Jim Flavin, President Roach, President Murphy, honored guests, all the members of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, and friends. As chairman of the Ancient Order of Hibernians Medal of Honor Committee, to me it is indeed a pleasure to welcome all of you to the Ancient Order of Hibernians section of the Medal of Honor Grove. There are so many that have to be thanked for making this occasion such the outstanding event that it has turned out to be. But my time is limited, so I simply say thank you, one and all. However, there are a few that we do have to single out, and one is sitting in your midst, Sister Maria Veronica, without whose help and inspiration, I don't think we would have been as far as we had gotten. Sister, thank you so much. And in addition to Sister, the gentleman that, I guess again, without his help, we certainly would not be here today. He's been running around like a chicken without his head all day long, and for the many occasions that we have had occasion to be here, to meet with him, he has been by far the most outstanding man I have ever seen to get something of this nature together. Colonel Bill Hesser. Bill, thank you so much. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not mention the committee. Of course, President Roach and Vice President Nick Murphy, John Bonner, Jim Brown, who else? Oh, Liam Kelly, or Neil Murphy, rather. Liam Murphy was with us, and Bill Andrews. Thank all of you fellas for the outstanding work that you had done. Thank you so much. Incidentally, I must point out that the lovely lady that had helped with the unveiling and had been introduced by the Toastmaster as Mrs. O'Neill, she is also the first cousin of the past Prime Minister of Ireland, Charles Haughey. Mrs. O'Neill, so nice to have you with us. And as the Toastmaster had alluded to, she is representing the Mr. Haughey today. While I'm speaking about Mr. Haughey, I don't know how many of you are aware of it, but if you're not, you should be. This lovely monument that we have unveiled today is a gift from Mr. Haughey. This did not cost the Ancient Order of Hibernians any money. He donated this piece of Wicklow granite to us for this occasion, and in absentia, if you would please pass it on to him, Mrs. O'Neill, we thank him so much. We are deeply gratified. And of course, in addition to that, we have to thank a fellow member, Teddy Gleason. Teddy from the Longshoremen Association, the president of it for these many years. He is the responsible party for having this monument brought over from Ireland, again, free of charge. So we have to thank him as well. Wherever you might be, Teddy, we thank you. We would like to honor all of these great American heroes, of which 65 of them are accredited to Ireland, who received the Medal of Honor and unfortunately were never recognized on any state statue from any of the states within the United States. Since the Medal of Honor was first awarded March the 25th of 1863, 257 recipients were accredited to Ireland, more than twice as much as the next closest nation. Of that, we are very, very proud. As General Paul X. Kelly, the Commandant of the Marine Corps, had said, wear them. My friends, our monument is now completed. Our work here is almost finished. We can now and forevermore say that we all have been in the presence of greatness. By being here in this Medal of Honor grove with the spirit of the men that we honor, as well as the Medal of Honor winners that are with us today. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We are on hallowed ground. There's nothing else for me to do but present this monument to the Freedoms Foundation. Dr. Miller and all the members of the Freedoms Foundation, and I have to present this, not have to, I do this, a labor of love, make this presentation to Admiral Speck. Admiral Speck will be the recipient, and he is also a member of the Freedoms Foundation. With a great deal of pride that I, on behalf of the Ancient Order of Hibernians in America Incorporated, present the AOH Medal of Honor Monument to the Freedoms Foundation at Valley Forge and with the Ancient Order of Hibernians by allowing us to become one of the Medal of Honor Grove donors. And may this monument and all of the other monuments that are in this grove be a lasting reminder for all of us to be forever grateful to these heroes that helped to make America the great country that it is. Thank you so much.
There's two governing bodies, the Board of Directors and the Council of Trustees, made up of distinguished leaders from throughout the United States. One of those is with us today to officially accept the monument on behalf of both bodies. Rear Admiral Robert Speck, United States Navy retired, a member of the Freedoms Foundation Council of Trustees.
Thank you, Dr. Miller, for that kind of notification. And thank you, Mr. Sullivan, for those impressive and informative words, presentation. The Medal of Honor Monument for those Medal of Honor recipients not otherwise accredited to any state in the Medal of Honor Grove at Freedom's Foundation. Freedom's Foundation is most appreciative of the generous action of the Ancient Order of Hibernians providing the resources for this eminently favorable project. This monument now joins those of the individual states in the Medal of Honor Grove. Accordingly, acting for the officers, the Board of Directors, the Council of Trustees, this monument provided by the Ancient Order of Hibernians for those recipients of the Medal of Honor not accredited to any state is accepted in the Medal of Honor Grove. The Medal of Honor was created early in the Civil War to meet the requirements of recognition of personal acts of bravery. It was the only such award available. Now in these modern times, this military services have several medals to recognize bravery in ascending degrees of bravery, severity, and each one of them has been refined to make the requirements even more selective. The Medal of Honor has some very demanding requirements. Distinguishing himself by gallantry and intrepidity, 2, at the risk of his life, in action against an enemy and above and beyond the call of duty. There are no finer requirements than those. I was looking over the list of Navy's recipients of the Medal of Honor. Among the things I noted in the stirring accounts of their deeds was that neither race nor country had any consideration in the evaluation of bravery. I noted one award to an enlisted man in the Navy. His name was Robert Blake, Christmas Day, 1863. He was serving in a steam gunboat named Marblehead. Now, the rates of specialization of the Navy men in those days, seamen, landsmen, boatswain's mates, topsailmen, and so forth. Robert Blake was an escaped slave. His rate was contraband, United States Navy. I got the impression that he earned his medal full well. Another point that I noted was that apparently the officers of the Navy were not expected to be very brave, or that suitable recognition was not necessary. The law authorizing the award of the Medal of Honor was for enlisted personnel only. Not till 1915 the award was made to the commissioned officers. And I assure you that since that time, there have been an appropriate number of the officers of the military services whose bravery has been a sufficient degree to be awarded the Medal of Honor. Of course, the powers that were of those days that hadn't gotten around to awarding it may have been like the one of the crew in the Navy's assault on Mobile Bay during the Civil War. During the approach, he looked up at the enemy guns. You could see them further than they could shoot in those days. And he mentioned to a shipmate that he hoped the enemy would distribute the bullets like the Navy did the pay. So again, Freedom's Foundation at Valley Forge desired to express its sincere gratitude for the presentation of this monument by the Ancient Honor of Hibernians to honor those men in whom uncommon valor was a common virtue. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral Speck. Ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today a special guest who came down from New York to be with us today. the Consul General of Ireland, the Honorable James Flavin.
Dr. Miller, National President of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, Mr. Roach, Vice President, Mr. Murphy, Chairman Sullivan, other distinguished members of the dais, distinguished members of the audience, in particular the recipients of the Medal of Honor, and Sister Veronica. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure for me to be here with you today as the representative of the people of Ireland. You gather here today to dedicate this monument to 154 foreign-born Americans, recipients all of the U.S. Congressional Medal of Honor, who to date have not been otherwise acknowledged in this honor grove. It is true that a majority of those we commemorate were Irish-born, but let us not forget that 10 other countries are also represented among the recipients. However, I think you will agree that it is especially appropriate and a distinct honor for those of us of Irish heritage that it should fall to an Irish organization, an organization representing the Irish-American community, to take the initiative in ensuring that those to whom this monument is now being dedicated are not overlooked. Now, there is no need to remind all here of the links which bind Ireland and the United States. The contribution made by successive waves of Irish immigrants to the social, economic, political and cultural life of this great country are furthering a brotherhood of affection, a community of rights, and a union of power among Irishmen of every religious persuasion, and thereby to obtain a complete reform in the legislature founded on the principles of civil, political, and religious life. In making this statement, the United Irishmen, many of them Presbyterians from the northern part of Ireland, were expressing their Irish ideals, which already had their counterpart inscribed in the American Declaration of Independence and in the Constitution of the United States. The similarity and congruence of the words of the United Irishmen in Ireland and the American founding fathers should not surprise us. Not only were American ideas in the air in Ireland, in Dublin and in Belfast, but Irishmen, many of them Northern Presbyterians, were closely and actively associated with the deliberations that led to the American Declaration and the Constitution. It is in keeping with these great American charters that the United States of America today forms a unity in diversity, a land whose richness is that it encompasses many traditions and excludes no person on the grounds of sex, religion, or racial origin. I don't claim that the road has been an easy one. Neither am I interfering in American affairs when I say, as many of you know better than I, that in years subsequent to the founding of the United States, many immigrants, including the Catholic Irish of the famine and later years, many dwellers in America, found themselves discriminated against precisely because of their skin color and racial origin, precisely because of their religion and the ecclesiastical authority to which they gave allegiance, precisely because of their sex or social conditions. These things are matters of record and are well known. But what we should never forget is that even in the darkest hours, the principles of the Declaration of Independence and of the Constitution acted as a leaven, an inspiration, and a rallying cry. For this reason in particular, Irish Catholics coming to America, particularly in the 18th and 19th century, despite any erstwhile discrimination, were quick to identify with their new country, to acknowledge and claim and fight for the freedom for which it stood. In so doing, they were to become the advance guard and standard bearers for immense multitudes of other races and creeds, both here in the United States and throughout the world. I am certain that it was this type of idealism which animated those Irish, British, French, Scandinavian, and other nationalities whom we commemorate in dedicating this memorial today. In Ireland, too, the ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the ideals of the United Irishmen of forwarding a brotherhood of affection, a community of rights, and a union of power among Irishmen of every religious search for a resolution of outstanding problems by peaceful means, forswearing the use of physical force. In addition, together with our nearest neighbour, Great Britain, 16 of whose citizens' names are inscribed on the obelisk we are dedicating here today, and the other members of the European community, we are working for peace and harmony among the nations of Europe and of the entire world. Inspired then by the valour for which the Medal of Honour recipients have been rewarded, and recalling the ideals to which those we commemorate here today gave allegiance, we look forward to strengthening the ties of friendship between Ireland and the United States, and to together promoting peace in the world. In conclusion, I would like to associate myself with the remarks of earlier speakers who congratulated all those associated with this wonderful venture. Thank you all very much indeed.
We're very pleased to have you with us, Mr. Flavin. Thank you for making the journey from New York to be a part of this program. As you look around the Medal of Honor Grove, you will notice that alongside a living tree, there is planted a stainless steel honoring the Irish recipients of the Medal of Honor. To unveil that monument, or that marker, Charles A. McGillivray, Medal of Honor recipient, member of the Ancient Order of Hibernians from Massachusetts, Liam Murphy, National Hibernian Digest, former editor, and John Ridge, former our dedication ceremonies here in each of the Medal of Honor Grove areas is the dedication address by the leader of the organization. Normally it's a governor, but the Ancient Order of Hibernians is not a state and does not have a governor. However, I would like to introduce to you Governor Joseph A. Roche, National President of the Ancient Order of Hibernians in America. Governor?
Ladies and gentlemen, brother and sister Hibernians, I hope I feel as good as I should feel. I think I do, and I hope I reflect the feelings of all of you in this magnificent demonstration that your organization has participated in. I am tremendously proud of the accomplishments. I would, like the others, thank the committee, Joe Sullivan, and his hardworking committee for this tremendous accomplishment. Distinguished guests, honorees, fellow Hibernians, I'm indeed privileged to participate in this moving tribute, which will long stir my memory, and I trust yours. There is a verse in O'Donnell Abu which was just so magnificently played by the Tara pipes and drums of Division 15, which speaks of the Irish in their fight against foreign oppression as strangers to flight and fear. This is particularly fitting because today we honor 150 foreign-born recipients, 65 of which Irishmen who distinguished themselves in an extraordinary way in the service of their country, and who were certainly strangers to flight and fear. Most of these men fought in the defense of a union which has survived and endures to this day due to the bravery of honorees like James Lanahan, John Foley, and Richard Nolan. Their courage and that of whole Irish regiments, like the 116th Pennsylvania, gave new birth to a nation without equal in its commitment to democracy and justice. All of those whose names grace this splendid monument, these Irishmen shared at least two things. One, in times of great danger, they all displayed great courage in uncommon acts of valor. And two, they all shared an Irish heritage, a heritage which is rich with acts of bravery and defiance in the face of unbridled tyranny. It would be impossible to distinguish their individual acts of sacrifice from all those commemorated here at Valley Forge, nor would it be possible to differentiate the just cause for which they all risked and often lost their lives: the freedom of our constitutional democracy and the defense of liberty both here and abroad. Why then does the Ancient Order of Hibernians take this time to recognize the achievements of these men? We do so for three reasons. First, we seek to more fully inform the American people of the contributions of those of Irish descent in shaping and making this country the great nation that it is today. Each generation yields more objective historians and individuals of remarkable dedication who offer new insight into the Irish people's search for peace and justice in Ireland and America. Second, we must alert Americans to the tyranny these men fled and to its endurance today in Ireland. Few Americans today know that the Irish Declaration of Independence, the statement that says the Irish people are by right a free people, and that rule is of and that rule by a colonial landlord is and always has been based upon force against the declared will of the people. And that's as valid today as it was in 1919. Finally, we must remind the American people and the Irish people who share this monument with us today that the price of their freedom and liberty is vigilance, courage, and sacrifice. Pope John Paul II in Central Africa recently emphasized this when he exhorted his audience to become free. Freedom is not a gift, he said, it must be earned. The anguish of Ulster requires courage and sacrifice from its leaders if it is to be truly free. With these objects in mind, we hope to make this day a lasting tribute, a tribute which will convey this message to those who may not view the beauty of this Wicklow granite given to us by our good friend Charlie Haughey, or who may never experience the peace and solemnity of this grove. It is known to many of you here assembled that the Irish legacy of these heroes is a dark one. It includes such complete and sinister subjugation that the poet Thomas Moore once described Ireland as a land where freedom now so seldom wakes. But freedom did awake in 1798, and the forefathers of these heroes struck a blow for freedom from the shores of County Mayo to Vinegar Hill in County Wexford. The leadership of a few, like Robert Emmet and Wolfe Tone, gave courage to the many. Such is man's quest for freedom that it is rarely satisfied until achieved. And as an author once noted, freedom's battle once begun, bequeathed by bleeding sire to son, though battled off is ever won. Thus the Irishmen we commemorate today carried this battle to America, and although often arriving as criminals, prisoners, or penniless refugees, distinguished them in every field of endeavor. How? They were simply free to do so. A precious few would earn the gratitude of a grateful nation by receiving its highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor. It has been said that freedom has 1,000 charms to show, that slaves, howe'er contented, never know. For these Irishmen, freedom had more than charms to show. It had the very seeds for survival. I am confident that Patrick Leonard, David Roach, and the others we remember here felt especially privileged to defend freedom, for they were tasting of it for the first time in their young lives. Many of these men could celebrate their Catholic faith openly instead of in caves or in fields. They could own property instead of having it owned by absentee landlords. They could vote and pursue an education, all of which were not simply denied them by their foreign oppressors and their laws, but were punishable if violated. Let me be clear. These men were born in a bondage every bit as complete as that of an American slave. The Catholic emancipation of 1829 preceded by 3 short decades the emancipation of the slaves by President Lincoln. Faced then with the sorrow of immigration or death by oppression or starvation, it is not surprising these men and thousands like them swelled the ranks of the Union Army while England comforted and courted the Confederacy in yet a third attempt to crush America's spirit. The blood of these Irishmen bleached red the fields at Antietam and Fredericksburg. Thus the stage was set for this unprecedented display of gallantry and patriotism which brings us here today, and which will continue to bring people to this memorial as long as truth and justice remain an American ideal. As I gaze upon the statue of George Washington kneeling in prayer, I could sense the strength of his conviction and the justice of his cause. He was kneeling not to a king, but he was kneeling to the power of a providence that gave us all a unique value, that of dignity and of a free will. I then thought of those words of a soldier not unlike the ones remembered today. There is no height nor bloody might a free man can't defy. There is no source or foreign force each man can know that his free will no thing can kill, and from that freedom grows. Freedom will grow whenever men, like the author Bobby Sands, and our honorees are willing to lay down their lives for their fellow man. I ask all of you here present that we dedicate ourselves not only to this stone, but to challenge oppression wherever it reigns, and to its preserving truth, and to preserving truth and justice at whatever the cost. Thank you most sincerely for your presence and your commitment to the ideals of this commemoration.
Thank you, Governor. Our thanks again to all that have made today possible, to Joe Sullivan and his committee that worked so hard, to all the rest of you that have been involved in this project for, excuse me, for nearly a decade.